What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Pyrostasis here, and as you can see, we're in something a little different today. Some of you may know exactly what this is and be like, oh! And some of you be like, dude, that looks like Minecraft, but worse somehow. This is Everquest One. This is a game that came out, I want to say, in 1999-ish. That may not be completely accurate. Actually, it may have been 98. I don't remember exactly when it released. I know Ultima Online came out in 97, and that's where I more or less started. So this is a little. This came after Ultima Online. So it was a fun game. At the time, it wasn't really my cup of tea, but we did spend a little bit of time with it. It was entertaining. We enjoyed learning about the game, and we played on the PvP server, which is a much different experience. I mean, EverQuest is not a PvP game. I know there may be some people who are hardcore PvPers who may argue with that, but it's not a PvP game. It is a PvE game at heart. It is a gear-based game where he who has the best gear wins. And in my opinion, anytime, and it is not like Ultima or not Ultima. World of Warcraft is also a gear-based game. So people are like, well, dude, that's a PvP game. Well, there would be a lot of people who would argue that that's not a PvP game. But yes, WoW is a PvP game. However, there's kind of a level of scaling there, if that makes sense. Wow, poor little rabbit bit the dust. With EQ, the level scaling is a lot different. With EverQuest, you have good enough gear, and somebody who doesn't, and it's just like a whole different bag of cupcakes. I mean, just okay. Like for instance, when I played on the PvP server way back in the day, am I heading in the right direction? No, I'm not. Damn it, Bobby. Um, I was a druid, and I had mediocre gear. I wasn't a raider. I think I was level 50, 58 or 59, and I was hunting in, I don't even remember the name of it, but there were some skeletons. I was a neck or no, I was a druid on this character, and I was hunting these skeletons in this ruins, and it was in one of the new expansions. It was right after a teleport. It was an interesting little place. Well, there was a paladin that kind of showed up in my camp spot, and he went AFK. And, I kind of liked killing people, so I was like, nah, fuck it, we'll kill this guy. So, as a druid, I tried to root him, because, he was a big paladin, he has a big two-hander, he would hurt me if he could get close to me, and I don't like getting hurt. So, I tried to root him, and then I failed. And then I tried rooting him again, and I failed. And I tried rooting him again, and I failed. And it was like, wow. So I rooted this guy like I think it was like 30 or 40 times. I blew my whole mana bar trying to root this guy and failed. And he had basically, because of his gear, because he was in a big raiding guild, he had gear that basically made him completely immune to my spells. And I don't know. In my opinion, gear should definitely give you an edge. If you there we go, if you take the time to get good gear, if you're in a guild, you should definitely have an advantage. There's no argument there. But there should be no point in time where gear makes you completely immune. So that's basically was my problem with EQ, and that was pretty much when I stopped playing. It was like, unless I'm going to raid, I'm never, ever, ever going to be able to even remotely compete. And I mean, there's a difference between like competing and then just being completely useless. And if somebody can basically completely shut you down, then anyways, I'm rambling on about PvP and EQ, and that's not what this video is about. Yesterday, EverQuest One went free to play, and I use that definition incredibly loosely because, in my opinion, free to play under Sony's model is not free to play. And what do I mean by that? Well, most games that are free to play, you have access to all the content, and you pay for convenience. You pay for, gear upgrading, more successfully. You pay for EXP potions. You pay for, access to special dungeons. You pay, you pay for things that aren't necessarily quote unquote pay to win, but make your life easier. You know, more bag space, more vendor space, better houses. You know, and even some games have the ability to modify armor, and you can buy the armor modifications there. Now, you can't necessarily buy the armor, but you can upgrade your gear quicker through there. You know, and the point is, you have access to the game. You can play the game, and as a free player, you don't have to pay. You know, if you're one of those hardcore guys that, you know, wants to sit out in the you know, the boonies and farm for 97 hours, you definitely have that option. Well, with EverQuest and EQ2, which are both now free to play, and I don't think there's anything. Can I loot these things? I don't think I can loot them because they're not mine. Okay, one corpse disappeared. Oh, yes! Yum, yum, yum. Thank you, guys. Awesome. So with EverQuest, you don't have that option. With EverQuest, you have access to most of the game except for the current expansion. So that means it's a free-to-play game where you actually have to buy the expansion if you want to get all of the content. And the expansion is $40, which to me is just a little bit asinine. You know, I mean, if you're going to offer a free-to-play game, in my opinion, it should be free-to-play to access the content. Okay, let's follow up with some of the other restrictions. They have a pretty crazy gold restriction. Now, EverQuest is very similar to some of the, I don't know, I would say kind of like Lineage, where money is pretty devalued and it takes a lot of money to buy things. And if you're restricted, as hardcore as you are restricted on a free account, hell, even on a silver account where you pay to, you know, for the glory and honor of being able to, you know, have a little bit more perks, you're still basically hamstringed with money. The other thing is you don't have access to all of the AAs. So in EverQuest, the way things work is you have your basic character levels, kind of like, well, here, I'm going to show you. Right here, you know, I have my EXP, all of that stuff, and I level up. And over time I get stronger, just like most games, and you get bigger and badder spells, and you do more damage, etc., etc. Well, the main thing about EverQuest, one of the cool things about EverQuest, is they have alternate advancement abilities. Once you get to a certain point, you can start dumping your EXP into these alternate advancement points. Well, they basically, and here, when I sit down to meditate, I will show you guys, no, let's not loot that. I'll show you guys what the alternate advancement abilities look like. So let's click on AA, let's go to class. And like, so right here, you know, you've got things like, you know, anytime you activate an ability, allows you to focus on your mystical arts for a short time, create a chance that your detrimental spells will strike your target. So basically right there, that would allow you to not get resisted. You know, you've got Frenzied Devastation. When activated, every direct image spell the wizard casts will have an increased chance to have a critical effect. But it will also cost more mana. And, you know, as you can see, there's just thousands of these things. And literally, you know, to raid or be effective, you know, most people have, last I played, which was a long time ago, you know, you had to have like 1,000 AAs. And certain classes like warriors and tanks, you know, you got to have like 500-600 AAs before you get out of level 50, before you can really be considered, you know, I was going to say mediocre, but decent. Well, with the free-to-play limitations, you are drastically limited by the number of AAs you can. Oh no, don't drown, little gnome. Oh, my cute little swimming animation. Oh my god. Okay. Whew. Minor panic attack averted. I'm trying to find some shit I can kill, but most of the stuff out here is pretty nasty. Ooh, there we go. So, you know, that, you know, you've got the coin limitation, you've got, your spell does not take hold. Why does my, oh, I guess I can't nuke that thing. Alright, fair enough. Didn't want to kill that thing anyway. So, you know, with those setups, you have some pretty big restrictions. And then the other restriction is there are certain items you can't use and spells you can't use. In EQ, you have awesome gear that you can get out of dungeons and raids. You've got awesome spells that you can upgrade from dungeons and raids. And you're not allowed to use those on a free account or even on a silver account. A silver account is basically where you pay some money for upgraded stats. So basically, to really play EQ, like I would say post 50, post 60, get into a guild and be effective, you pretty much have to subscribe. And these aren't abilities, I mean, I wouldn't even have so much of a problem if you could buy access to these things. Like if you could buy 1,000 AAs for $5 or $10 or whatever cost you want to charge, if you could do that, that wouldn't be so bad. You would be able to do that. You'd be able to, at least pay for what you want. But with the forced subscriptions, you don't really have a choice. You have to pay a subscription fee. And in my opinion, that's not free to play. So, just to kind of cover the highlights, you have to, to really do any, have any form of participation in the game, you pretty much have to get at least the silver upgrade, and the difference between the two is very low. Once you get past 60, you're going to have to upgrade to a paid subscription if you care to be competitive. There may be some people who argue with that, but that's just my opinion. Not only that, but every time a new expansion comes out, you aren't going to get the expansion for free. You're going to have to pay $40 for the newest expansion just to get access to the stuff. And Sony comes out with expansions pretty much once a year. Sometimes, I want to say EQ2, they do them twice a year. So that's $80 a year plus, your subscription fee. So in reality, it's not really a free-to-play game. But that all aside, and all that, angry hatred, etc., the game's really good. If you like dungeon crawls, if you like old school RPGs, working long term for challenges and things along those lines, it's a fun game. It's for a lot of us old timers like myself who, were teenagers when it came out. This is one of the games that, a lot of people started with. The other thing is, this was basically the first World of Warcraft. And what I mean by that is, this was the first game that widely became popularized and everyone, even non-gamers, knew. Everquest was Evercrack. Everybody's, most gamers played it, wives hated it, CNN did several news stories on it, very similar to WoW's news stories now, where it's like, oh my god, man got divorced because he neglected his wife because he was playing too much EverQuest. Man gets fired because he, stopped going to work playing too much EverQuest, etc., etc. So, EQ kind of brought MMOs into the mainstream. It was the first major blockbuster success. So, it's a great game, and it's got like 17, 18 expansions now. It's really fucking ridiculous. And they have so much content. I mean, literally, like, WoW has a lot of content now. It's been around for a while. WoW's content is probably maybe equal to maybe the base game of EverQuest and one of the expansions. That's how much content that there is here. I mean, they have a time-locked progression server that's been running for like, I think, a year and a half now. And it's just getting close to catching up to, the actual game now. And time-locked progression servers basically is they lock them based on expansion. So as you progress through the servers, you unlock. One sec. So the thing about it is there. Sorry, my brother came in. I had to chat with him for a sec. The progression servers, the way they work is they're locked on expansion. So it starts off and you have access to just the base game, and then once you beat those raid bosses, etc., kind of like the Lich King or World of Warcraft, you move to the next expansion after a certain period of time. I think it's like 30 days, and then you have to kill the next big, uber boss, and then you move to the next expansion, and etc., etc. Well, that thing's been running for multiple years, and people haven't even finished doing it yet, and it's amazing. There's just a amazing amount of content, and I guess you can't really understand until you've played the game how much content there is. So, anyways, I just wanted to kind of, let you guys know about this game, what my thoughts were on it. Yeah, in this whole video here, I've been leveling and killing stuff, and I'm not even level 2 yet. So it definitely has a harsher leveling curve than some of the other games do. It's definitely a slower paced game, but the groups and the dungeons were just so interesting. I mean, like in World of Warcraft, you run a dungeon, it may take you 30 minutes, and you've seen the beginning, you've seen the end, you've done everything there was to do. You fought the big boss, etc., etc. Well, in EverQuest, there are no instances. Well, I mean, there are now, but there weren't back in the day instances. So you would run through and fight in a dungeon with a ton of other people, and you'd be there for like weeks. Obviously not in one sitting. You would come and go, but when you first got into a dungeon, you might be level 20, and you can only do like the first room in the dungeon. And so your group goes there, and you guys fight and fight and fight, and you get several levels, and you finally get strong enough to where your group can take the next hallway or the next wing, or etc. etc. And you move a couple rooms over, and you rinse and repeat, and you do that. And then you level up a little bit more, and you finally manage to move a little bit further in. And that was basically how it worked. And dungeons, dungeon crawls were epic adventures. It wasn't any of this like 10 minutes in, we're gonna go ahead. Oh, damn it, couldn't quite click on that one fast enough. Yeah, this is a new server, so there's quite a bit of competition here for the mobs. But the dungeon crawls were epic. I remember sitting in Lower Guck in like the bedroom, which was one of the camp spots, and sitting there for like 5 levels, and working my way up, and I never actually completed that dungeon. Oh god, I'm gonna fucking drown. Oh, come on, swim up, gnome. I don't know how to swim up. That's not good. I'm gonna fucking drown. Okay, there we go. Not gonna drown. My little midget's okay. Come on, midget. You can do it. All right. I've managed to make it out of the water. I will not be drowning in the toilet today. But so that was a much more interest. Did it look like that bear was mating with that other bear? Because that's what it looked like to me. You'll have to roll back to look, but it was real brief. But that bear was clearly raping that other bear. I'm gonna have to call the bear police. That was just uncalled for. But it was just a different type of game. So, if you want to take a look at it, there's a lot you can do that's free. You can get a silver membership for $5, which, really isn't that much. And, for $15 a month, you can check it out in all of its glory, minus, of course, the new expansion, which I think is level 90 to 95. So, there is literally, if you did all the content and just breeze through it, you could literally play this game for probably 3 or 4 years without seeing everything. I mean, there's just that much content now. So, hope you guys found this video rant, so to speak, entertaining. It did go a little bit longer than I planned on it being, but I did start playing this with my brother last night in the evening, and, figured I would let you guys know my thoughts on it, thoughts on the free-to-play model. In case there is any curiosity on what my thoughts on Sony's free-to-play model are, it's 2 big infected anus thumbs down. I hate their free-to-play model, but their game is good and definitely worth playing, maybe for a month. We're going to be playing Terra next month, so this gives us something to kind of screw around with until Terra comes out. So, hope you guys are liking this video. If you do, please click that like button. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my other videos, tips, tricks, and guides, and I'll catch you guys in the next clip.